Labor Committee. I'm Senator Kathleen Kauth, and I represent the 31st Legislative District. I serve as the chair of the committee. This committee will be holding a hearing today on the resolution posted on the agenda. It is LR 281. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time today, interim study resolutions are introduced by senators who believe that the legislature should investigate certain topics that may be the subject of future legislation. The Business and Labor Committee is here today to receive information about these topics. The committee members might come and go during the hearing. This is just part of the process. I ask that you abide by the following procedures to better facilitate today's proceedings. Please silence or turn off your cell phones or electronic devices. We'll have the introducing senator make their opening statement before we begin with any testifiers today. It will be my legal counsel, Thomas Helgett. Then we will ask those invited testifiers to come up to testify. I will call your name. We will not use our usual procedure of asking for proponents, opponents, or neutral, as this is an interim study. When all testifiers are done, we will then call the introducing senator to come up for their closing remarks. Closing remarks are reserved for the introducing senator only, so Thomas will not do a closing remark. If you're planning to testify, please pick up a green testifier sheet that is on the table in the back and complete one for the resolution that you are planning to testify on. Please fill out the green sign-in sheet before you testify. Please print, and it is important to complete the form in its entirety. This will help us make a more accurate public record. When it is your turn to testify, give the green sheet to a page or to the committee clerk. If you have handouts, please make sure you have 12 copies and give them to the page when you come up to testify, and they will be distributed to the committee. If you do not have enough copies, the page will make enough copies for you. When you come up to testify, please speak clearly into the microphone, tell us your name, and please spell out your first and last name to ensure we get an accurate record. We will be using a 3-minute light system for all testifiers. When you begin your testimony, the light on the table will be green. When the yellow light comes on, you have 1 minute remaining, and the red light indicates your time has ended. Questions from the committee may follow. No displays of support or opposition to a resolution, vocal or otherwise, are allowed from the audience at a public hearing. The committee members with us today will introduce themselves, starting on my right.
Dan McEwen, District 41, Central Nebraska.
Tony Sorrentino, District 39, Elkhorn and Waterloo.
And as I mentioned, my legal counsel is Thomas Helgett, and to my far left is Committee Clerk Julie Condon, and Catherine, studying environmental studies at UNL, is serving as our page today. Now I'll ask the introducing senator to come up and present their resolution. Mr. Helgett.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Helgett, Thomas, Helgett, Helget, and as stated, I am legal counsel for the Business Labor Committee. This is we're required to do under the Occupational Board Reform Act passed in 2020. Required to look at all the licenses in the state of Nebraska and review the occupational regulations. This year, we're supposed to do about approximately 20% of the ones that fall under each committee every year. This is for elevator mechanics and elevator contractors, which has not yet been reviewed by any committee under the state of Nebraska under the passage of the Board Reform Act. So we're a little overdue, but because we passed as part of LB 415 earlier this year, LB 435 from Senator Wardcamper regarding elevator mechanic licensing and elevator contractor licensing, realized that needed to be reviewed by this committee. And so as part of that, brought forth on behalf of the committee, LR 281. The answer very well me at this, the changes that we made in LB 435 as a part of 415 very well may be the ultimate changes that necessary as related to the occupational requirements. But today we have a few testifiers. We have individual who's the director of codes and standards for conveyances to talk about the requirements under the elevator mechanics conveyances. Also from the representative from the state fire marshal's office. The state fire marshal is in charge of issuing the occupational licenses for these elevator mechanics and elevator contractors, and is in fact the fire marshal that brought LB 435 with Senator Wardcamper. And then there's also an interesting issue regarding vertical reciprocating conveyors. where while there can be considered quite different from elevators, some of the licensing requirements for purposes of repair are similar. We have a representative who is going to speak about the interplay between BRCs and elevator mechanics. And with that, I guess I open it up to any questions for the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Helgett. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. First testifier will be Josh Joseph, Director of Codes and Standards for Conveyancing. There. Hello, Mr. Is it Joseph?
Joseph.
Joseph.
So my name is Josh Joseph, Josh Josoff. And thank you for having me, Senator Cal, and Business and Labor Committee. My name is Josh Joseph, like I said, and I am the Director of Codes and Standards for the elevator constructors. I, in my position, travel all over the United States and Canada, helping different jurisdictions not only establish inspection programs or licensing requirements, but codes continually update. They're on 3-year code cycles. So anytime a new code edition comes out, there's anywhere from 60 to 90 new codes, and helping jurisdictions establish which codes work best for their environment, because different codes can have different impacts on different jurisdictions around Canada, the United States, depending on infrastructure and all those different things. Sometimes just broadband access to things can have a huge impact on the codes written. So just helping these jurisdictions work through their problems. The crazy thing is, this is my home. I grew up in Louisville, Nebraska. The first elevators I worked on, Nebraska was coming off the national championship in 1997. I started in 98 at Memorial Stadium on the Skybox as the first edition. So it's a little bit more near and dear to my heart being here. Thank you. What I'll say to you is the licensing and the testing requirements, it's complicated. I brought these stacks of code books here just really quickly. So this is the main code book we work under. It's A17.1, and it's called the Safety Code for Elevators and Escalators. So this book right here covers the maintenance, repair, testing, inspection requirements for elevators and construction on elevators, right? This next book right here is just for the inspectors on how to inspect elevators correctly. Here you have the international building codes, and then here you have the national electrical code. And these all go together, but they helped forge a protection, first and foremost, for the general riding public of Nebraska, our citizens. But second, our building owners. When people go in to work on your equipment, you want to know people are trained, they know what they're doing, and that this stuff is inspected properly. Now, I would love to say you could install something correctly one time and never have to look at it again. That's not the reality. These conveyances, these elevators run millions and millions of times a year, and they go to a point where they fail. And so that's why you're continually testing them to make sure that they meet all the bidding and stuff like that. Elevators have to be safe enough for a 4-year-old to get in, push the button, you go to the floor and you get off, and nobody thinks twice about it. But they're dangerous pieces of equipment, sorry.
That's okay. You came to your red light, so I'm going to ask you some questions.
Yes.
First off, would you please, since we're not allowed to use props, would you read it's okay. Would you read the titles of the books so we can get those in the record?
Absolutely. So one is NFPA 70. It's the National Electrical Code.
Okay.
One is the International Building Code, the IBC. One is ASME A17.2. It's the guide for inspection of elevators, escalators, and moving walks. And the last one is ASME A17.1, the safety code for elevators and escalators.
Okay, great. And I understand your comment about 4-year-olds being able to use the elevator safely, although I've had a child get into an elevator before I did and went down a few floors. That was terrifying.
Yeah.
So as the code stands now, I guess what we're doing here today is seeing, are there changes that need to be made after the code was changed in 2020, I believe? Is it working? Are there changes? Do we need to tweak this? How do you see our codes and our laws right now?
So if I could,
I asked you a question.
my
you can
one
answer.
personal thing that I think most of it's working well.
Okay.
The one change I would always admit that needs to be done is licensing for the mechanics, the men and women that work on these conveyances, only adhere to the 3 largest counties in Nebraska.
Oh.
And I think that's a shame, because if you live in Kearney or in Chadron, I think you should have the same standards and level of protection as the general writing public. And I think that would be the biggest thing that I would see that needs change, because this is about being qualified and skilled through education means set up by the state.
Okay. That's good feedback. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think overall, the inspection program and everybody is doing a fabulous job overall.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. Sorry, I forgot to ask.
Mr. Joseph, I want to make sure, who is your employer? Who is your employer?
The International Union of Elevator Contractors.
Okay, that's your employer. And does the state of Nebraska pay a fee to then get input from you, or how does this transaction work?
So I still belong to the elevator constructors in Omaha.
Okay.
It's called Local 28
All right.
Elevator Constructors. And no, I shouldn't say that. In a way they do. Everybody that is a dues paying member, right, pays money to the international.
Okay.
And the international has people that are the director of safety, the director of codes and standards, different fashions to help educate and spread the word and things like that across the United States and Canada. I'm the only person in North America that works on codes for the elevator constructors.
Okay, so as a member of that labor union, it's your job. You're more doing inspection than you are doing probably the day-to-day work on elevators and escalators, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But you've done that probably in the past?
For 20 years, I worked on them out in the field. And then
Okay.
for about the last 8 years now, I've been in more of a leadership type of a role.
Okay. Then lastly, your comment about licensing should apply to all counties, not just the biggest 3, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, is that something that the legislature can take up, or is this something that happens within the collective bargaining units? How does that
It would be something the legislature, and look, I'm not naive to it. Sometimes a lot of states have been anti-licensing. There's not been a big push. So we probably sat back from our industry, not wanting to rock the boat, even though, because sometimes licenses are looked poorly, even though if I had time, I could defend everything about what's going on. I think that's the biggest point right there, right?
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any further questions? No, thank you. I appreciate your testimony.
Thank you so much.
Next up is Doug Hobine from the State Fire Marshal's Office. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Well, I've got written testimony I will read from, so bear with me. I think I can read. Good afternoon, Chairperson Kaut and members of the Business and Labor Committee. My name is Doug Hobine, D-O-U-G-H-O-H-B-E-I-N. I am the Interim State Fire Marshal. I'm here today to provide a general overview of the Conveyance Safety Program, information about occupational regulations under the Conveyance Safety Act for elevator mechanics and elevator contractors, and provide information about the purpose and function of the Conveyance Advisory Committee. The Conveyance Safety Program is governed by the Conveyance Safety Act, which applies to the construction, operation, inspection, testing, maintenance, alteration, and repair of conveyances. Nebraska Revised Statute 81-5,215, conveyances may take many forms, but the most commonly thought of are passenger elevators and escalators. The division is comprised of 1 chief inspector, 3 inspectors, 1 full-time temporary inspector who is working towards full accreditation, and 2 support staff. These employees provide the required inspection and licensing services throughout the entire state. Before any newly installed conveyance can be used for the first time, a certificate of inspection from the State Fire Marshal must be obtained by the property owner. The Conveyance Advisory Committee advises the State Fire Marshal on rules and regulations for elevator operation, maintenance, inspection, and the qualifications for elevator mechanics and contractors. They make recommendations regarding the adoption of various safety codes and make recommendations regarding equivalencies and variances from code requirements and continuing education for providers. In addition to the state elevator inspector, the other members include the State Fire Marshal or their designee, a representative from a major elevator manufacturing company, a representative from an elevator servicing company, a building manager, an elevator mechanic, and representative from the counties with populations over 100,000 people. The committee meets quarterly and provides extremely valuable information about both new industry trends and emerging technologies. Per the requirements of Nebraska Revised Statute 81-5, 220, number 2, it is the responsibility of licensed elevator mechanics and licensed elevator contractors to ensure that installation and service of a conveyance is performed in compliance with applicable fire and safety codes. It's the responsibility of the owner of the conveyance to ensure that the conveyance is maintained in compliance with applicable fire and safety codes. Nebraska Revised Statute 81-5, 211 states that elevator contractor means a person who is engaged in the business of contracting services for erecting, constructing, installing, altering, servicing, testing, repairing, or maintaining conveyances. An elevator mechanic means a person who is engaged in erecting, constructing, installing, altering, servicing, repairing, testing, or maintaining conveyances. Elevator contractors can obtain Nebraska licensure by submitting the required application showing 5 years of work experience in the conveyance industry in construction, maintenance, and service or repair, along with the required insurance coverage and application fee. Elevator mechanics can obtain Nebraska licensure in a variety of ways, including to submit a required fee, an application showing 3 years work experience in the construction, maintenance, and service or repair, along with either proof of passing a national test or a Nebraska-issued test or valid license from another state with substantially similar standards. Also showing the required proof of insurance coverage. Both licenses are issued for 2 years and can be renewed after each 2-year issuance with the required fee and proof showing the required continuing education.
You've come to the
I've
end.
come to
Would
the
you
end,
like to
yes.
finish your statement?
Very little left to it, and I will, please. Yeah, if I can. Conveyances are a routine part of life and are often considered a needed staple that is not fully appreciated until they're not working correctly. The importance of making sure those systems are functioning correctly is vital to the public and can help play a vital role in life safety. These systems can be very complex, and specialized training and expertise is needed to ensure the proper working functions are maintained. Having Nebraska licensed contractors and mechanics ensures the equipment is properly installed, maintained, and serviced according to the adopted life safety and mechanical codes. The Nebraska Conveyance Safety Program has been effective and efficient in helping to maintain the public safety of Nebraska. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. I would be happy to answer questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there
Sorry
any
for going
questions?
long.
No questions? I do have one.
Yes.
On the statement you handed out, it said the required application showing 3 years versus 5 years. Is
Right.
that a change that was made
I
recently?
believe that was a mistype on there that was, it said 5, crossed it out, and I saw today that it should say 3. So
Okay,
it
got
should
it.
say
So it
3.
is 3 years.
Yes, it is
Okay.
3, correct.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the only,
Okay.
one more question. Sorry. Same question I asked Mr. Joseph. What do you think of the change that were made most recently to this statute? Do you think it needs to be tweaked further? Is there anything you would advise us to change?
I think the changes that were made this time were not major. I think it was some cleanup type of issues and things that needed to be done. I guess I would leave it to the legislature as to how to address the other issue of it's only occurring as far as those licenses for those big 3 counties. Opinions on that can go different ways and have very, very different opinions on that. So I wouldn't weigh in on that part of it. So overall, I think the system and the division and how it functions is working very well.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's it. And Mr. Tom, is it Quant from RMH Systems? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's Tom Quant, TOMQUANDT. The company I represent is called RMH Systems. We're in Bellevue, and I sell and I receive.
Let's get your green.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't know is the LR number.
We got it.
I sell vertical lifts. I have nothing to do with elevators whatsoever. But when I go to sell a vertical lift, I have to hire elevator people at like $180 an hour. And they in turn will hire millwrights and professional welders to come in or do it themselves. That's exactly what we do. I've sold some of these to like Kawasaki, several to some of the Syngenta branches around in Nebraska. And that $180 fee, when you talk multiple weeks of installation, it gets pretty ugly, and they'll usually do something else. And a vertical reciprocating conveyor is strictly like a manufactured area where you're going to bring something in on a pallet, go up in the air, and then automatically bring it out onto a conveyor on the other side. All of these companies take safety extremely serious. I mean, extremely. So on an installation that we did recently, like a year ago at Syngenta, we put in 2 of these. I hired the legal elevator contractor, and he said, well, I don't know that much about these vertical reciprocating conveyors. I know a whole lot about elevators. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I hired the welders and I hired the millwrights to go ahead and install this stuff. And they did great. The city inspectors came out. They looked everything over we did. They had a couple little tweaks of like electrical things we had to change. And then we in turn went to go do a load test where we represent a scale company. So I have these big 1,000-pound blocks. We loaded them in on a pallet, took them in, brought them up to the top twice, and he signed off, yes, you did everything great. And I showed him my certificate for the welder people and all that, and there's no problem. If I go to sell one of these in any other state around us, I don't have any problems. I don't have to follow these rules. I can hire my own millwrights and hire my own welders. In the city of Omaha and in some of the other, that's the only one that I've installed these in. I have to use that vertical, or I have to use the licensed elevator contractors. The millwright guys are professionals. The welders are professional. And then when it's all said and done, it's completely tested through the state, and everything's great. They give them their certificate and off they go. So I don't understand why Nebraska is one of just a very small amount of states that does this. I was told 3, but I didn't verify that of all the other 50 states. And so I guess I'm just kind of confused about the whole thing. And they asked me if I would be more than happy to come down. And I said, sure. I go to Lincoln anyway. That's my territory. I handle material handling things. So I purchased the conveyors, brought it in, and I saw the red light.
You're
Sorry.
at your red light. So let me ask you a few questions.
Great.
So first of all, you in your you did put some online statements on as well, and you talked about significant and unjustified costs to business owners. So can you tell me about what percentage of a project cost it would add to that project?
Labor is usually about more than half. And in this case, it's even more because I can hire a professional millwright guy for about $120 an hour to $110. The elevator guys are at $180. If I hire a non-union one, I can get that for a little bit less. But then they install elevators. They don't install vertical lifts. Very few of them know what this is about. The company we get them from gives us this real detailed manual that says exactly what to do. So we follow it, to the nth degree because we don't want the liability.
What do these vertical lifts ever lift people?
No,
They're strictly for
no, there's big
products.
signs all over. Do not have riders. No way. No. Some of the people will get around these vertical lifts by putting in spiral conveyors, but they're not good for these heavy loads. They're only for boxes. Lots of people have those around the state.
Okay, and then there was one more part of your online. You have proposed language. Can you explain to me the proposed language that you have? It says the elevator contractor and mechanic licensing requirements in the chapter do not apply to conveyors and related equipment within the scope of American Society of Mechanical Engineers. So you'd like to put that in the language to basically exclude the vertical.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, I don't have no problem with the inspection, with the people, with any of that. It's not a problem. It's just when we get ready to install these things, they get very expensive, and sometimes the companies within the state get hit.
About how many of these projects are going on in the state at any one point in time?
I really have no idea. I'm just one guy, and I handle everything Interstate 80 South, and then I handle Kansas and Missouri and some of the other areas. But yeah,
How many of these do you personally sell per year?
Usually about 3 or 4. They're expensive.
So where do you usually mostly install them at then?
Big companies.
Yeah.
Like in the case where we did one right next to where the zoo is for Syngenta, they have an older building and it has 2 stories, and they wanted to get drums of material from the bottom floor to the top. So we put in it's a conveyor, and it sits and it's all electrically programmed and everything. So then it would come in, go to the top, go off, and then if that was, you had leftovers, they would go around and then come back down. And so my job was design the conveyors and get with, in this case, the company was P-Flow, who did my lifts. And then, Syngenta is extremely safety oriented. I mean, you can't even drive a golf cart there without a permit.
Senator Sorrentino.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Could you tell me, your testimony seems fairly common sense to me. Who would oppose your suggestions?
The unions or this licensed elevator contractors group.
And they would oppose it based on what?
Well, they'd probably lose business because I could hire millwrights and give them the manual that P-Flow gives me and say, you guys install it. Whereas the elevator people, and I'll be truthful with you, the elevator guy came out and he did not know anything about these. I was constantly calling the factory to get details so that it went in correctly and safely.
Thank you.
Other questions from the committee? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Great, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that closes our hearing. Oh, sorry, we have 2 letters, one from Mr. Quant and then one Thomas Archie. So thank you very much, and we're done.